Discover Jesus' shocking secret to unbreakable strength. Now transform your life forever. In the small town of Everwood, whispers filled the air like an electric hum. People talked They gossiped about a tale so bizarre it felt like a fever dream. They said Jesus had shown up, not in a shimmering robe or with angels by his side, but in a rundown garage on the edge of town, where nail-biting tension hung thick as the musty smell of rusted tools. Eyewitness accounts were sketchy at best. They said he demonstrated impossible strength, lifting a truck effortlessly above his head, palms almost casually gripping the metal like it was made of feathers. Skeptics scoffed. But the believers? Oh, they trembled in awe, their eyes wide with both fear and wonder. The garage, draped in faded graffiti and surrounded by a crowd of spectators, felt alive with energy. As people shifted closer, they could almost feel the weight of an unseen force pushing at their chests. And then, in the midst of that predictable chaos, something even stranger happened. An old woman, hunched over with years of pain etched into her face, began to weep. Her tears sparkled like tiny diamonds under the dim, flickering light. "He has come to save us," she cried, her voice thin yet powerful. The gathered crowd hushed, an eerie silence then enveloping everyone like a warm, pressing blanket. Eyes darted around. Disbelief clashed with that quiet hope, creating a tension that hung heavy as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting twisted shadows across the ground. The murmurs resumed. People recalled stories of miraculous healings, of hands that restored sight and hearts that had once felt nothing but despair. It was a gathering of fate. Just as the tension reached its peak, a shout erupted from the back of the crowd. Excitement rippled through like shockwaves. "Yes, here. Yes, really here." The air crackled with exhilaration. Hearts raced, all waiting for the moment of revelation. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a figure stepped forward from the swirling crowd, bathed in a haunting glow. Every eye locked in, breath held. There he stood, the embodiment of hope itself. Yet there was something almost otherworldly about him. Did he really possess that unbreakable strength? Or was it a cleverly spun web of lies? A hush fell once more as he raised an arm, silencing the crowd. And deep down, each person felt it a tingle at the base of their spine. The moment felt suspended, like a taut bowstring ready to snap. Would he confirm the rumors? Or perhaps reveal an even more extraordinary secret, one the world wasn't prepared for? The crowd leaned in, hearts pounding, eager and terrified all at once, waiting for the answer that could change everything. A low murmur coursed through the crowd like a gentle current. They leaned in closer, breathless, as Jesus stood before them, an unearthly calm washing over his features. The flickering light seemed to glow brighter, illuminating the determined set of his jaw. "I am here," he said, his voice rolling like thunder wrapped in silk. His words pierced the gathering darkness, each syllable sending a ripple of anticipation through the throng. The old woman wiped her tears and blinked, her faith sparkling in her eyes as she whispered fervent prayers. Others in the crowd exchanged glances, fear mixed with excitement, doubt intertwined with hope. At that moment, a young man stepped from the back of the crowd, his hands trembling by his sides. "What do you want from us?" he shouted, desperation erupting from his chest. The crowd gasped, eyes darting between Jesus and the bold interrupter, straining to catch every flicker of emotion on their faces. Jesus' gaze didn't waver. "I want nothing from you," he declared softly, "but I come to offer you everything." It was as if those words hung in the air like an unbreakable bond. Pressing against their hearts, a deafening silence blanketed the gathering. The young man hesitated, confusion etched deep into his features. "You lifted a truck. Are you truly the Messiah? What's next? The challenge crackled under the weight of hope. With a calmness that radiated strength, Jesus stepped forward. Strength is more than physical power. It is the resolve to heal, to mend broken hearts. A ripple of awareness took hold of the crowd, curiosity igniting like a match in the dark. What was he really saying? Just then, the garage door creaked open with a sharp squeak, cutting through the tension. From the shadows emerged a figure, a tall, broad-shouldered man with wild eyes that flickered with panic. You need to leave. He is not who you think. His voice was frantic, sweeping through the crowd in an instant. Gasps and murmurs erupted. Yet Jesus stood unwavering. Who am I to you? He questioned, his eyes piercing deep, challenging every person present to confront their innermost beliefs. The man continued, hardly taking a breath. I saw his power. You don't understand. It's not a gift, it's a curse meant to destroy. He frantically pointed a finger toward Jesus like a lightning bolt in a storm. The crowd turned, their expressions a mix of intrigue and horror. Hands shook at side, whispers of concern snaked through the gathering. Some leaned towards Jesus, drawn by curiosity, while others pulled back, fear pushing them away. What if there was truth in the man's words? Jesus didn't flinch. He stepped closer, radiating warmth that seemed to draw even the most skeptical souls. All curses can be broken, and all strength can be used for good if you choose to believe. I can show you the way. The young man who had once doubted now felt a strange warmth envelop him. Was it faith? Fear? Hope? He couldn't tell. But as he took a step forward, courage ignited within him. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the vicinity, sending shivers down everyone's spines. It shook the very foundation of the garage. The air thickened, the mood shifted. Was it the fear of an impending confrontation, or the rise of something far greater? What was the truth behind Jesus's powerful presence? And what did it mean for them all? The crowd stood frozen, each heart racing, knowing that the answers might forever change their lives. Could strength also serve as a dangerous weapon, one that could unleash chaos instead of peace? The ground beneath them trembled again, more violently this time, as pieces of dust swirled into the air. The chill of uncertainty ran through the crowd, leaving an electric charge buzzing through their bodies. Faces turned pale, eyes darting like startled rabbits trapped in headlights. What is happening? A woman cried, clutching her child's hand tighter, her brows knitted in fear. The tall man with wild eyes shouted, his voice rising above the growing chaos. Yes, pushing the limits. You feel it, don't you? This is the calm before the storm. The panic in his tone sent ripples of alarm, causing people to take a step back towards the shadows of the garage. Jesus, however, remained steadfast. The flickering light seemed to surround him like a protective aura. This is just a beginning, he said, not raising his voice, but somehow his words cut through the cacophony like a sharp blade. The weight of the world can cause tremors, but it's only when you face the tremors that you find your true strength. Behind him, a blinding light flickered and dimmed, shadows lengthened, and whispers became frantic as if the fabric of reality was stretching thin. What does that mean? The young man shouted again, stepping closer to Jesus, hesitating as he felt the pull of authority in his words. Are you saying we must choose? With a nod, Jesus replied, yes. To choose is to take a step into the unknown. You can stand in fear, or you can embrace what comes next. You hold the power to shape your destiny, just like I do. A deep rumble rolled through the ground, louder now, and doubt wrapped around the crowd's hearts, squeezing tight. The man's voice trembled. You don't know what you're asking for, he yelled, desperation in his eyes. There's a darkness that comes with power. You'll lose yourself. At that moment, Jesus turned to him. Their eyes locked in an eternal moment that felt like time itself paused. Or I can find myself anew. You only ever lose what you choose to let go of, he said, the confidence in his tone palpable. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed, like thunder slamming the air. Light erupted from the center of Jesus, dazzling and frightening. The crowd gasped and stumbled backwards, shielding their eyes. Some fell, scrambling to their feet, confusion and awe wrestling for control. Fight or flight, a voice shouted from the back. What will you do? As the light settled, different emotions flickered on every face: fear, hope, anger, wonder. The young man glanced around at the company he had shared doubts with moments before. Now, faces merged into a collective struggle for clarity. Can we believe in a power that could both save and destroy? He pondered aloud, his voice shaking with the weight of his thoughts. Jesus stretched out his arms, the brightness still radiating from him. It is not the power that will determine the outcome, he proclaimed, but the choices we make in the face of that power. The light gradually receded, but the tension did not dissipate. It remained thick in the air, charging every breath, tightening every throat. The man with the wild eyes surged forward once more. I know what he truly is. You've all been blinded. His body lunged, fingers grasping at empty air as he aimed to expose the truth. You must wake up. Was he a prophet of doom or a voice of reason? Would the truth destroy their fragile hope, or set them free? As the boy looked to Jesus, who stood unwavering and strong, he felt a mix of fear and determination. He had to choose, and quickly. What lay ahead? Would he find strength in unity with the crowd, or would he fall prey to vulnerability and isolation? The air thickened, hearts raced, and the tension rose like a wave ready to crash down. The moment was at hand. Would they embrace the light or surrender to the darkness? A deafening roar rippled through the crowd, shaking the very air around them. It was as if the earth itself was crying out in warning, and a chill swept across the faces of the onlookers. Some turned to flee, tearing themselves away from the unsettling uncertainty, while others gripped their loved ones tightly, unwilling to yield to fear. Stay, Jesus commanded, his voice rising above the tempest. This is the moment of truth. He stood boldly, drenched in blinding light, shadows swirling like phantoms at his feet. The young man felt a fire igniting in his chest, a desperate need to stand, to understand. You're asking us to trust you? He called, each word heavy with urgency. What if trusting you leads us into deeper darkness? The man with wild eyes pressed closer, panic clawing at his throat. This isn't just about belief. His hands flailed with desperation. This is about power. Can twist you, consume you whole. Eyes wide, he observed the fervor in the young man's gaze, trying to instill doubt. Why follow someone who could lead you to your demise? A moment of silence hung in the air, charged and electric. Jesus lowered his arms, the light shimmering like a beacon. But destruction can also be rebirth. Darkness helps us see the light. If we do not delve into the depths within ourselves, we may remain forever blind. What do you mean? Came a voice from the back, trembling but insistent. People glanced at each other, the tension morphing into a collective hunger for clarity, for guidance. Every one of you carries a weight, Jesus replied, his eyes penetrating the crowd like arrows. Resentments, fears, dark secrets. Only by confronting these shadows can we truly step into the light. The young man, caught in the crossfire of rising emotions, felt his heart race. This was not just a choice about trust. It was a choice about vulnerability. Could he expose his fears? In that moment, a rush of memories surged through him: faces he'd lost, mistakes he'd made, moments frozen in regret. Could he truly stand in that raw honesty? Is that what you did? He shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. How did you find strength in your own darkness? Strength is not born of triumph, Jesus replied. It's forged in failure. A chain forged in fire becomes unbreakable. You must face your demons in order to transform them into your allies. The ground began to tremble again, but this time it felt different, like a heartbeat quickening, alive. Dust swirled like ghosts from the past, swirling around their feet. Fear merged with intrigue as waves of sound crashed through the silence, growing louder, forming words. Choose or lose, they murmured from a distance, reverberating through the air like an echo of truth. A woman's scream cut through the thick, Heavy air as darkness seeped forth beyond the shadows. Cries erupted, the atmosphere thickening with anxiety. Yes, right. A voice rang out. We can't ignore what we feel. This isn't just about him, it's about all of us. In a flash, the stillness shattered as the crowd started to surge forward, emotions spiraling into chaos. Would they stay and fight or flee in terror? The faces around him had transformed. Fear morphed into determination, curiosity igniting their spirits. Together, we'll find our way, Jesus shouted, a fierce resolve in his eyes. This path leads only to strength. Can you feel it drawing you in? The air crackled with unspoken choices, each heartbeat urging them to confront the inevitable truth awaiting them. A final tremor surged beneath their feet, stronger than before, a warning and a promise combined. This is only the beginning, Jesus said, his voice echoing, resonating in every soul present. With hearts racing and breath held tight, they awaited what would come next, standing on the edge of a choice that would change everything. But right then, as the ground trembled, a new voice emerged from the shadows, a deeper, darker echo that whispered a single word: betrayal. What did that mean for the fragile unity forming in the crowd? Would this revelation fracture their hopes, or could it unite them? Against a hidden enemy? The word hung in the air, thick and heavy. Betrayal. It wasn't just any word. It carried a weight, a darkness that seemed to wrap around the crowd like a shroud. Faces twisted in confusion, apprehensive glances darting from side to side, as if the shadows themselves were conspiring against them. Betrayal? The young man repeated, his voice barely a whisper, throat tight. He turned his eyes back to Jesus, searching for truth, for guidance. What could they possibly face next? Doubt pulsed through the crowd like electricity. Yes, the wild-eyed man hissed, stepping forward, emboldened by the chaos. Who here among us has not felt the sting of it? Family turned against family, friends swallowed by ambition. When the darkness rises, it reveals the monsters hidden beneath our skins. His eyes darted, filled with fervor and madness, igniting fear in those who dared to listen. Suddenly, a young woman stepped up, her voice rising above the din. We can't let fear divide us. Her hands clenched into fists. If we stand together, if we face this darkness as one, we can find our truths and defeat these shadows. As her words hung in the air, Jesus leaned in, radiating calm in the tempest around them. Yes, he affirmed, an anchor in the storm, but each of us must be willing to confront our weaknesses. What are you afraid of? What lies in the shadows of your heart? The crowd held its breath, caught in an intricate dance between fear and defiance. Confessions brewed beneath the surface, sighs mingling with whispers of regret. A man stepped forward, face twisted in agony. I left my family for success, he stammered, his voice breaking. I thought it was the path to happiness, but all it brought was emptiness. I betrayed my own heart. Gasps rippled through the crowd, empathy tinged with horror spreading like waves. Yes, the wild-eyed man spat, desperation bubbling. Look at him. We all have our betrayals. We wear them like scars on our souls. It's the darkness that binds us, not the light. Tension mounted, the air dense with fear and revelation. The heartbeat of the crowd quickened, a thundering pulse of uncertainty. The idea of unity became an anvil hanging heavy over them. Would they shatter under the weight of their truths, or become unbreakable? That's enough. Jesus' voice cut through the swirling tempest, commanding attention. Admitting our betrayals is the first step. But remember, the path forward is not paved with guilt. It is walked with redemption. What was lost can be reclaimed if we shed our shadows instead of hiding in them. Thunder cracked overhead, a tumultuous reply to his proclamation, and the ground quivered beneath their feet once more. No longer could they ignore the undercurrent of unrest that threatened to tear them apart. With a surge of bravery, another woman stepped forward, tears glistening on her cheeks. I betrayed my own beliefs, she confessed, trembling as she spoke. In my fear, I chose silence over standing for what is right. Each admission peeled back layers of trust, revealing fractured souls yet hungry for healing. The crowd teetered on the brink, as if they danced on a knife's edge, waiting to see which way they would fall. A low rumble emanated from beyond the shadows, a voice rising above the chaos once more, dark and ominous. They will betray you again. Betrayal is embedded in their DNA. You think you're safe? The voice slithered through the thrumming hearts, each beat echoing despair. An icy chill gripped the hearts of those who heard it, and uncertainty took hold. Would their gatherings of support fracture under this new threat? What lay ahead? Silence enveloped them, thick and palpable as every eye turned to Jesus, seeking direction in the storm. But all that came was a solemn nod as he stepped back, anticipation locked in his gaze, eyes glimmering with a challenge. Was the next step forward surrendering to fear or standing together in the truth? The choice loomed heavy over them as a new tremor of fear rumbled through the ground, a promise that something more sinister was yet to come. The air crackled with tension, the collective breath of the crowd seemingly suspended in time. Eyes widened, hearts raced, as Jesus cast a glance over those before him. His presence felt like a flicker of light against the encroaching shadows, yet uncertainty pulsed among the crowd. Are we prepared for what lies ahead? His voice was steady, yet carried an urgent edge. Do we confront our darkness or let it consume us? Someone shouted from the back, voice shaking. The question hung in the air. A heavy stone dropped into the lake of emotions surrounding them, ripples of fear and anticipation spreading outward. Then let us take that step. The young woman who had initially rallied the crowd stood firm, her voice unwavering. We must reclaim our power by sharing our truths. Let them bind us in healing and not in fear. She looked around, searching for others willing to join her in this vulnerable moment. Gradually, hands lifted into the air, a ripple of shared understanding. Beneath their fears, a flicker of hope ignited, bold, unyielding. Yet, like predator sniffing the air, the wild-eyed man seized the moment. Hope? You fool yourself if you believe hope can shield you from betrayal. The monster lurks just out of sight, he screamed, his face a mask of desperation. The crowd turned on him, a wave of anger combining with fear. Stop, shouted a burly man, stepping forward. You cannot suffocate hope with your madness. Madness? The wild man narrowed his eyes, a wild flicker of something feral dancing within. Look at them. Look at you. You pretend to be free, but you are shackled by your secrets. Gasps erupted, the question lingering, stinging like the lash of a whip. Were there hidden truths becoming chains? The young woman took a deep breath, her face flushed but resolute. If at the heart of this gathering is a truth we vie hidden, let us pull it into the light. Let us share and strip ourselves bare. One by one, they stepped forward, voices trembling yet charged with newfound energy. A mother confessed her fear of losing her children to a world rife with betrayal. A teenager admitted feeling invisible, discarded by friends in pursuit of popularity. Each revelation landed like a stone, crack upon crack, shattering the facade of their bravado as the confessions flowed. The darkness in the wild man's eyes flickered uncertain, and for the first time uncertainty surfaced within him. That's enough, Jesus commanded, cutting through the confessions with a resolute tone. Yes, we must confront our betrayals, but we must also find a way to heal from them. We are stronger together. The crowd stepped closer, finding solace in each other's shared pain and hopes. Yet that darkness lingered. The words of the ominous voice echoed in their minds. You think you're safe? Suddenly, a shattering noise erupted just beyond the gathering, echoing down the alley where the shadows loomed thickest. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the stormy sky, dread surging through the crowd. Gasps turned into murmurs of fear. What is that? Someone whispered, eyes wide. Heartbeats thundered. Jesus stood tall, unwavering, but even he seemed to sense the change in the air. This was not just a physical threat. It was a manifestation of their collective fears coming to life. The crowd retreated instinctively, hearts racing, some clutching at each other for support. Stay strong, Jesus urged, his voice rising above the swell of panic. But the vulnerability of the moment settled like a weight. The truth is not always comforting sometimes. It's the hardest reality we have to face. Just as confusion mounted and shadows danced closer, the figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a face they knew all too well, a face twisted in betrayal, grinning dangerously. "Look who's here to reclaim their throne," the figure taunted, a voice dripping with malice. Fear gripped their hearts. The embodiment of their past traumas stood before them, demanding they confront not only the darkness in the world outside but the darkness within themselves. What could this mean for the bonds they had forged? As tension crackled, only one thing was certain. The true battle for their souls was about to begin, and it would take every ounce of strength they had left to face both the shadows outside and the demons within. Who were they, really? And would they come together? Or would betrayal once more claim its crown? The figure stepped closer, revealing the familiar features twisted by years of bitterness. Daniel, once a trusted friend, now a stranger molded by betrayal. Shock waves rippled through the crowd, eyes darting between Daniel and Jesus, the tension palpable as the air became thick with unspoken resentments. "Daniel," someone dared to whisper, trepidation lacing the name. "Ah, such a warm welcome," Daniel mocked, his voice a chilling melody. "It's been a while, hasn't it? But it appears I've missed all the fun. What are you all doing here? Kumbaya? Or are you sharing your most delightful secrets?" "Enough," Jesus commanded, stepping forward, a fierce glint in his eye. "You have no place here. This is a gathering for healing, not hostility." Daniel laughed, a sound devoid of joy. "Healing? Is that what this is? Or is it a facade? You stand there, full of righteous ideals, but I know your past. I know where you stumble." The crowd tensed, their discomfort simmering as Daniel leveraged their fears. Memories of failures peeked out from the shadows, rising to the surface, digging into their resolve like nails on a chalkboard. "Who among you can truly say you are innocent?" he continued, his gaze sweeping over the gathered souls. "Isn't it easier to blame others? To shout about hope when your truths are putrid?" Murmurs arose, a sea of anxiety washing over them. The young woman tightened her grip on a friend's arm, trying to pull strength from their connection. "We've faced our truths. We're here to break the chains, not to listen to your taunts." Daniel grinned, hunger glinting in his eyes. "And yet, here you are, trembling, making claims of strength and power, while I see the cracks in your foundation. You cannot forge unity on lies. Your truth cannot stand." The weight of his words felt like a boulder, pressing down on hearts. One man, with a visible tremor in his hands, whispered, "What if he is right?" "Silence," Jesus insisted, stepping into the fray. "This is the moment we choose to rise above our fears, to not let the darkness exploit our past. We are here for one another. The truth is not so simple." Daniel sneered, stepping closer, darkness oozing from him. The ground beneath seemed to tremble, mirroring the storm brewing in the atmosphere. Suddenly, a crack of thunder echoed, and the tension shifted as the sky darkened further. "What do you want, Daniel?" Jesus asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. "I want to see you crawl," he spat, "to watch the light fade from your precious gathering. You think unity can shield you? You think it's about clinging to hope? What's your plan?" demanded the young woman, her voice quiet but cutting through the chaos. "To sow discord, to break us apart? You will fail." "Oh, I don't need to break you. You'll do it yourselves. Just wait." His eyes flickered with an evil that sent icy chills down spines. And then, like a snap of a twig, he stepped back, vanishing into thick shadows that seemed to stretch and wrap around him like a shroud. The tension hung. Panic and confusion surged like a riptide among them. "What now?" someone cried, anguish in their voice. "What do we do?" Jesus raised his hands, stilling the murmurs, allowing silence to blanket them. "We dig deeper. We turn our pain into purpose. We challenge this darkness together." But even as he spoke, unease loomed in the air, wrapped in uncertainty. Then, from the depths of the crowd, a ghostly whisper cut through the silence. "We can't trust each other." "Can we?" Who was behind that voice? Would doubt fray their unity? Just as that question lingered heavily between them, another thunderclap echoed. The night seemed to scream with inky shadows, pulling them closer to an edge. The true battle for trust had begun, but mortality lingered on the horizon. Who would succumb to the shadows, and who would emerge bathed in light? The darkness swirled, a looming presence that wrapped tightly around the gathering. Jesus held his ground, eyes scanning the crowd. Faces wore masks of fear mixed with a flicker of hope, but uncertainty draped over them like a heavy cloak. "Listen," he implored, voice steady against the rising storm. "Trust is built on the foundation of vulnerability. We can embrace our truths, our imperfections." His words carried a steadiness, but the doubts cast by Daniel remained like shadows flickering at the edges of flame. A murmur coursed through the assembly. The young woman who had bravely spoken up earlier looked around, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "But how can we trust when betrayal lurks in our hearts? When every whispered doubt seems louder than your words?" Jesus stepped closer, his presence a beacon cutting through the gloom. "What of my truth? I too walk a path of struggles. My burdens do not define my purpose. They guide it. Together we will confront our pasts." But as his proclamation resonated, a rustling noise split the fabric of the night. Beyond the gathering, a collection of shadows began to stir. They shifted and coiled, restless and restless, as though they were sensitive to the emotional storm brewing among the crowd. A collective gasp tore through the people, and panic swirled anew. Across the small clearing, two figures emerged, faces obscured by hoods that masked their intentions. The crowd tensed, muscles coiling in anticipation of the next threat. "We're here for the truth," one of the figures rasped, voice edged with malice. "It's time for secrets to be revealed." "What are you talking about?" Jesus demanded, his patience wearing thin but curiosity flickering at the corner of his resolve. "Do you come to expose or edify?" "Expose," the second figure replied, stepping forward, allowing a sliver of moonlight to reflect off their features. The hood fell back, revealing a striking visage contorted in disdain. Eyes bright with fire. "Truth hides behind pretty words. You preach compassion but harbor secrets that could shatter this facade." The young woman shouted, "Then share your truth. Show us what you hold." With that challenge, the figures exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement triggering a palpable shift in energy. "You want the truth?" The first figure laughed, a sound cold enough to freeze the breath in their lungs. "Then let us dig into the core of your so-called unity. How closely bonded are you, really? What specters linger in your shadows?" Whispers erupted, an echo of doubt rolling through the crowd as they recalled their own failures, their hidden fears. Jesus stood firm, defiance sparking in his eyes, but the biting grip of fear clung to the air. "Daniel has made a mockery of us," one man cried out, his voice trembling with intensity. "What if these shadows are just another distraction? Are we equipped to face what lies at the center of trust?" "Enough!" Jesus barked, desperation rising. "United, we stand stronger. We can face whatever storm brews." But the figures remained unmoved. "We all have shadows," the second figure warned, voice dripping with menace. "The heart of your community is nothing without addressing its darkness. Can you truly confront your own?" The young woman pressed close to Jesus, courage surging. "Then let us see the truth if it frees us. Show us what lies beneath." In an instant, the shadows twisted, coalescing, revealing memories woven from the fears of the gathered souls. Images of betrayal, whispers of doubts, each recollected moment was amplified by their collective heartbeat, heavier and heavier, winding around them. "What will you do?" the figures taunted, "when your greatest fears become manifest? Will you shatter or rise?" As their murmurs grew louder, cracking the atmosphere, Jesus took a deep breath, anchoring himself in the storm of emotions swirling around them. "We will choose to understand. We will choose to embrace both light and dark." The weight of their unacknowledged fears hung thick in the air, their shadows reaching deeper, tugging at resolve. But a flicker of hope ignited amidst the darkness. igniting an unquenchable spirit as the scene grew electric with tension. One radiant light broke through the gathering, a single spark illuminating the shadows around them. What could it reveal? Would they find the courage to face their darkness together, or would the shadows consume them one by one? The light pulsed, flickering like a heartbeat against the darkness. A soft glow began to illuminate the faces of those huddled together, revealing expressions of fear tangled with intrigue. Jesus closed his eyes momentarily, drawing deep into his center. The air thickened with anticipation, and he opened his gaze upon the shadows, firm and unyielding. "Fear is a poison," he said, voice resonating like thunder, shattering the whispers. "But facing it together can unlock your true strength." He gestured to the swirling mass of shadows, their grotesque shapes twisting, morphing into forms that mirrored each person's drowned memories. Each pulse of light peeled back layers, exposing the raw wounds that lingered in the corners of their hearts. "Look," the first figure sneered, stepping into the light and pointing dramatically. "What do you see? Each grievance, every betrayal, lies before you. Is this unity? You hide behind smiles while the monsters in your past gnaw at your souls." A cacophony of gasps erupted. People recoiled as silhouettes shifted, revealing intimate moments of pain: the father who abandoned, the friend betrayed, the lover lost. It was a montage of heartbreak, woven together with heartache. But the young woman stood rooted, unblinking. "No," she shouted, squaring her shoulders against the rising tide of dread. "We're more than our scars. We can change this." "Change?" the second figure snarled, stepping closer. "You think camaraderie can erase the darkness that lives within you? Secrets are like chains. Heed them, and they will bind you." With that, the shadows coiled tighter, a noose of fear threatening to suffocate hope. Whispers of doubt crept back into their minds. What happens when the truth does emerge? Would they truly be able to stand united? Or would the weight of their darkness topple their collective strength? Jesus stepped forward, arms wide. "Do not fear the shadows. They are a part of you, but they do not define you. Show me your betrayals, and in return, I will show you the power of redemption." A hush fell as his words settled into the hearts of the crowd. Hesitation danced between intimacy and vulnerability, but something stirred a raw, unrefined courage. "Reveal your burdens," he called, voice echoing powerfully against the chaos. "What keeps you shackled? Speak, and set yourself free." "Here." One man trembled, stepping forward. "I was the one who betrayed. I let greed chain my heart." The shadows around him twisted and shrank, recoiling at the confession. "You will not break," the first figure screamed, their frustration exposed. "You seek validation among echoes of regret." Others began to step forward, their voices trembling yet resolute. "I was the coward," one woman choked out, tears streaming down her face. "I should have fought for my family." "Yes," Jesus urged, arms embracing the collective energy surrounding them. "This is the truth that illuminates. Let the past unravel to reveal your strength." As more confessions spilled forth, the shadows began to dissolve, light exploding forth from the cracks in their facade. With each revelation, the oppressive darkness lifted, a tangible weight casting aside. Suddenly, the figures moved forward, fury etched across their faces. "You think you are free? These shadows will return. Your secrets are written in blood." Panic surged through the crowd as a chilling acknowledgement settled in. There were still truths unspoken. The tension was palpable, thick as fog. What if the weight of their pasts was too great, too unforgiving? As the last flicker of the shadows faded, Jesus stood resolute, an ember of hope radiating from him. "Your path toward truth starts here. Embrace it, fight for it. Will you rise to become more than what has chained you?" Just as the crowd seemed to unite under his rallying call, the ground trembled, rumbling beneath them like a volcano ready to erupt. What a voice gasped, fear creeping back into the air. Is this a warning of what is to come? In that moment of stillness, all eyes turned toward Jesus, waiting with bated breath for the imminent storm, one that would reveal the deepest fissures in their unity. Would they find the courage to rise? Or would the shadows reclaim their hold before dawn's light broke? As the ground shook once more, the air around them seemed to thrum with a life of its own. Faces lifted, hearts raced, hope and fear mingling in equal measure. Jesus stood firm at the forefront, a beacon in that swirling chaos. "This is not the end," he proclaimed, voice as powerful as the thunder crackling overhead. "'Tis merely the gateway to your true selves." The shadows that had once felt all-consuming began to peel away, revealing the raw humanity beneath the scars, the doubts, the unspoken fears. Each confession had been a thread in the tapestry of their unity, and yet an undercurrent of anxiety still lay nestled in their hearts. "Will you let these shadows define you?" Jesus asked, his piercing gaze sweeping over the crowd. "Every burden you carry is not a curse. It's a part of your journey. Together we'll transform it into strength." The young woman who had rallied them earlier stepped forward, her chin lifted high, eyes glimmering with determination. "No, we refuse to be paralyzed by fear. Let us share our truths. Together, we'll turn this tide." A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd, as others found the courage to speak. "I was ashamed of my choices," a man's voice broke, trembling yet resolute. "But I choose to face them now. I refuse to let my past dictate my future." Light flickered as Jesus moved among them, gently laying a hand on shoulders, igniting a flicker of warmth in the chilly air. "Yes, see how weightless the burdens become when shared. Each voice lifted in truth forms a shield against betrayal. This is where strength begins." Suddenly, Daniel, emboldened by a flicker of anger, surged from the shadows, eyes ablaze with urgency. "You think this unity can last? Each spoken truth is just another chain waiting to break." His voice dripped with venom, yet the crowd didn't recoil. They stood resolute, shoulders squared. "No," shouted the young woman, stepping forward, relentless in her bravery. "It's not about resisting the darkness. It's about embracing the light within us. We'll expose the shadows together." Emotions surged like tidal waves. "I feared I wouldn't belong," someone cried. "But today, I stand not just for myself but for all of us." With each new confession, the barriers built by doubt crumbled. The glaring truth was not their guilt but their shared strength woven through honesty and compassion. Jesus watched as their collective courage sparked like wildfire. "Can you feel it?" he called, arms wide. "This is the pulse of unity. Your fears don't define you. Together we reclaim our power." Suddenly, the shadows around Daniel began to flicker, hampered by the rising warmth of newfound hope. "You won't suppress the chaos forever," he snarled, but there was a tremor of uncertainty in his voice, a crack in his confident facade. The crowd pressed closer, growing bolder with every passing moment. "Whatever darkness we face, together we will rise." Another voice rang out, fueling the energy coursing through them. The flickering shadows began to dissolve. Fear was losing ground. "What is this?" Daniel shrieked, backing away, his bravado faltering. "You're foolish to think you can triumph." "Oh, but we're not just thinking," the young woman declared, voice unshakable. "We're rising, and the truth is our strongest weapon." With newfound force, the crowd united, each voice stacked upon another, rising like a crescendo of hope, drowning out the shadows that once loomed large. In a flash, an overwhelming light burst forth from Jesus, pushing back against the dark. It wrapped around the crowd like a warm embrace, intertwining their spirits into an unbreakable bond. Daniel gasped, his once steady facade cracking under the weight of revelation as he was engulfed in the light. "You don't have to be the monster in the shadows, Daniel," Jesus implored. "You can join us." A flicker of vulnerability crossed Daniel's face, a deep conflict brewing within him. "But I let it go," came a voice from the crowd. "You're not defined by your betrayals." Trembling, Daniel hesitated, searching the faces around him, each brimming with compassion, each story laden with pain yet radiant with acceptance. Something shifted in his eyes as the shadows began to reel back, terrified of the light. "I was wrong," he finally murmured, vulnerability spilling forth. "I didn't want to be alone, and in the darkness, I thought I could find power." With that admission, the shadows scattered back, losing their hold over him. Light poured over the gathering, illuminating the path ahead. Together, Jesus echoed, gazing at each and every one, "We have forged something unstoppable. Together we are strong. Together we can break the cycle of betrayal and darkness." As the last remnants of the shadows dissolved into the ether, the crowd erupted into cheers. Laughter, tears, triumph, it all blended into a celebration of strength and resilience. Daniel, enveloped by the crowd, was pulled into the fold, a broken soul beginning anew. Jesus smiled, the warmth of joy radiating from him as he turned to the assembly filled with hope. "You have faced the darkness. Now go shine your light into the world. Share this powerful truth. Strength is not in isolation but in unity, vulnerability, love. This is where life transforms." The crowd erupted in applause, a collective heartbeat echoing in the air. They had risen, unveiled their strength, and reclaimed a bond forged in their shared darkness. And with that, the truth hung vibrantly in the air. In their joy and unity, they stepped boldly into the world beyond, ready to face whatever lay ahead together. Now, as the lights began to dim, and the air settled into a serene silence, one thing was clear. The journey had transformed them, and they were more than just a crowd. They were a family bound by choice, strength awakened through vulnerability. But before we close this extraordinary chapter, I need you to listen closely. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss this transformative journey or any exclusive tales in the future. Smash that like button right now to help feed the algorithm and keep the momentum alive. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you love? What shocked you? Share your theories about what comes next. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to witness this profound conclusion. Your support means everything, and sharing the message can ignite hope in someone else who needs it. Go now.